How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and of course, of the Locked On Colts podcast as well. We're here with another film session breakdown, and today we're going to be diving into another underrated, unheralded type player on this Colts team, and that is tight end Mo Alie-Cox. Alie-Cox is a player who has had his reputation be high and low and multiple times throughout his career with the Colts. He has been a flashy bottom of the roster guy early in his career, was supposed to be the replacement for Jack Doyle when Jack Doyle retired, and unfortunately he just wasn't really that capable of a player to be that. He really could never step into that number one tight end role, but now he is finding his place again in the NFL as the Colts tight end 2 behind the emerging star that is Tyler Warren. So we're going to dive into how Alie-Cox has been one of the key pieces of this Colts offense, one of the parts to an offense that has been a sum of their parts type of offense, and how he's a player that we can't really sleep on too much right now because he's doing the dirty work that is allowing Tyler Warren to be who Tyler Warren is best. So let's dive a little bit into Mo Alie-Cox and give our flowers to the veteran player. This is a guy who's been here for nearly 10 years if you look at just his overall time with the Colts, and I think he's playing some really good football right now. So to kind of start this off, he is still an effective run blocker, just a very effective run blocker, especially when you get him out here at the second level against smaller defenders. We're going to see from this run here in week 1 against the Miami Dolphins, the Colts are running a bit of a power play. I think they're going to be pulling Bernhard Raimann up ahead of the play, and we're going to get Alie-Cox climbing to the second level against a defensive back, and he's going to wash that defensive back out for a really impressive block, give DJ Giddens the room he needs to get those 10 yards. So when we let Alie-Cox get out in space and get to that second level, we still see him be a very, very good blocking tight end. Tanner Bortolini with a really great block there as well. And this is the stuff that we've come to know and love from Alie-Cox over his career with the Colts. Very good blocker, a guy who's capable of being not only versatile as a blocker, but just being a guy who can wear multiple hats in that area of his game. But this is the aspect that I really want to highlight with him as a run blocker, where he is doing the dirty work for the Colts this year. The Colts are just moving Tyler Warren around so much. He's being moved into fullback. He's being a sniffer tight end. He's being put out wide. He's being off the line here at the end of 12 personnel formations, and Alie-Cox is essentially serving as an extra offensive lineman on a lot of these blocks. So he is a guy who is tasked with blocking defensive ends one-on-one. This is against Femi Aladejo from the Tennessee Titans. So this is one-on-one with a defensive end, and his entire goal here is to win inside and make sure this guy stays to the outside. So you're going to see him explode off, stay inside, and as Oladejo tries to break up the field to the outside, Alie-Cox is fine with that. He's going to let him go out there. He's going to just get in the way and let Jonathan Taylor work up the field for this superstar run that we see from Jonathan Taylor. But again, we're seeing this tight end being left on an island with a defensive end, and the Colts trust him to do that dirty work so Tyler Warren can be in here as a fullback and get ahead of the play, wash out that linebacker, and then it's all Jonathan Taylor from there. But Alie-Cox, again, is being used as that extra offensive lineman at the end of the line. We're going to see on these next couple clips that it's not just him blocking defensive ends, because again, we have these 12 personnel sets where we're fine with Tyler Warren just getting inside position on defensive ends, keeping them to the outside and opening up space that way. But that only works when you have Alie-Cox here against, this is a 5 technique. I guess this is technically a little bit outside of 5 technique here, like a 7 technique, but look where he is right here. He's going to be blocking. This is a defensive tackle. And again, we're just trying to win that inside leverage. He's not going to just out-muscle a defensive tackle here one-on-one, but we're going to win that inside leverage, get inside, open up that space for Taylor to find an exit lane. And then again, Jonathan Taylor does his thing there as a runner. But we're letting Alie-Cox just thrive as the dirty work guy. We're getting Tyler Warren out of these situations where he has to be physical and win one-on-one with defensive tackles and defensive ends, where, we can have him off the line a little bit. He can maybe get a defensive end every now and then and just keep them outside his frame like he does here. It's a really good block from Warren. But it only works because you have Alie-Cox protecting him, so to speak, where Alie-Cox is able to do this kind of offensive line type work on the inside. It allows Warren to be in a more advantageous spot, and then it helps when you have Jonathan Taylor being like this. But we've been seeing on plays like this, again, another 12 personnel. Warren's not on the field, but we still have Alie-Cox operating inside here as that sixth offensive lineman, and he's going to be one-on-one with 69 here on the Titans defensive line, one-on-one blocking, pushing him down the line, getting that space for Jonathan Taylor, and Taylor's getting another productive run. So as a run blocker, Mo Alie-Cox hasn't been this superstar run blocker this year because he's tasked with the hardest assignments that you can give a tight end. He is blocking defensive tackles, he's blocking defensive ends, and protecting Drew Ogletree, Will Mallory, and letting those guys operate in more generic tight end type roles. And Alie-Cox is doing this kind of dirty work here, and it's helping the Colts have one of the best rushing offenses in football. So his blocking has been massively important to the Colts in that regard. And then we're going to get to another aspect of his blocking, which is pass protection. He has the most pass blocking reps on the Colts team this year outside of the 5 offensive linemen. So he's got 15 pass blocking reps this year at his tight end position. And these are not just, chip blocks or chips and then he's staying in. They're trusting him on an island in a lot of situations here. We're going to have him. This is going to be max protection. We're going to move Drew Ogletree across the line of scrimmage to come and help him on this block. But to start the play, Alie-Cox is on an island versus a second-round pick at defensive end, and this is a one-on-one block in max protect. So we're going to see him, it's not against Eladejo, it's against number 69 here. We're going to see him get his hands inside, stay on top of that. So this is actually against a defensive tackle, not against a defensive end. And he's going to get physical enough to buy time for Ogletree to come in and secure that outside leverage of that block, give Daniel Jones the time he needs. Jones is able to step up and deliver an 18-yard completion to the sideline there. But again, we're asking him to be an offensive lineman in a lot of these situations, and Alie-Cox is able to do this kind of dirty work for the Colts offense and provide them the time they need on these passing concepts and on these run plays. Another pass block here out of max protection. The Colts have loved their shot plays out of max protect, and we're going to get Alie-Cox here against the blitz. He's going to be filling against this defensive back coming in late, get his hands on them, give the time that's needed, and Alec Pierce is able to make that big play down the sideline. So again, I'm not trying to sit here and say Alie-Cox is some superstar tight end for the Colts, but he's a player where his role is so vital because he's just able to operate as a pass protector, as a run blocker at a high level, and give the Colts the flexibility they need to be effective. If we look at how the Colts have been in 12 personnel this year, which this is a 12 personnel play here, we got the 2 tight ends, the 1 running back, so 12 personnel. The Colts have been the number 1 12 personnel offense in football this year by EPA per play, a top 7 passing offense out of 12 and a top 8 rushing offense. They've been highly effective. They've been developing deep shots off of 12 personnel, and they've been running the ball quite well as well. And it's because you have this number 2 tight end in Mo Alie-Cox that's able to operate at such a high level as both a blocker and a blocker in the pass game and a blocker in the run game. But also, we're getting a little bit of the pass catching from him as well. He's not just a guy who can only block. We're getting a little bit of that pass catching juice. This was his big play in week 1, a 20-yard reception in the flat off of a big play. And this is what we know Mo Alie-Cox from. This is what we love about him. This is what we thought he was going to be when he took over as the starter, because his ability to create after the catch has always been pretty special despite being kind of a slower-footed guy. He's so hard to tackle. What was it? Joel Erickson with Indy Star would always say that it's like a moose in the open field. And that's kind of what Mo Alie-Cox is. He is a guy where when he gets the ball, he turns into an old school running back and he just plows over guys. Tyler Warren's a little bit shiftier, so we can see a little bit more movement from him. But with Alie-Cox, it's just straight fullback. It's impossible to tackle him. He's a big body guy, which is always crazy considering his basketball background. And we get yet another one here where we're going to hit him in the flats. Get him going in the flats here, and he's going to get upfield for another 8-yard gain. So, I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, this is the Colts have this 2-headed tight end monster going, and the Colts are, have the best tight end room in football, because it's not what it is. But when you get a guy like Tyler Warren, this play is actually a great example where Warren, we're able to do all the stuff we want to do with him. We're able to put him in motion, let him be a receiver some plays, let him be a fullback some plays, utilize him in this diverse skill set. But for that to be effective, especially if you want to be a 12 personnel team like the Colts have been this year, you need this big blocking tight end. You need this big blocking tight end that can do a little bit more for your offense and take on the ugly work so you can do the fun stuff with Tyler Warren. So you're even seeing on this play here, the Colts are trying to leak Warren vertical, and Pat Surtain runs with him, which opens up the space for Alie-Cox to get this catch. But, you can't really do a lot of this downfield stuff unless you have another big inline tight end like an Alie-Cox. So I know this is a guy that we've bemoaned for years, saying, why is he still here? He's just hasn't been the super effective player. But I think so far this year, we've seen a really good version of Mo Alie-Cox, and it's because having the presence of Tyler Warren has clearly defined his role in the offense. He is no longer expected to be a guy who catches 40 balls for 400 yards. He is now a guy who maybe catches 15 passes this year, 20 passes this year, and is a high-level run blocker and pass blocker. That is what we've seen from Alie-Cox this season. And I think just having the presence of Tyler Warren has made Mo Alie-Cox better. And honestly, I would say the presence of Mo Alie-Cox has made Tyler Warren better. The Colts are able to use Warren in a variety of ways because they have a player like Alie-Cox. So at the end of the day, I've been really impressed with his play this year. We said jokingly on the Colts Squad Show podcast prior to the season, which player is going to be the Ashton Dulin Award for the guy who does the dirty work but doesn't really put the stats out there? And Mo Alie-Cox was my pick because I really thought going into the year that having a guy like Warren would be so good for him, and we're seeing it come to fruition early this season. He has been a very effective player for the Colts. He's both a run blocker, a pass catcher, and I expect this to carry forward the rest of the season. So in an offense that's just humming, where every single part is playing really well, I wanted to give some love to Mo Alie-Cox, who I don't really think many others are going to give him the love he deserves, but I think he's had a really, really good start to the 2025 season for the Colts.